The Valkyrie warship came down through Earth's atmosphere, trailing smoke and sparks. Dr. Sarah Chen watched from the observation deck as the massive vessel made an emergency landing at the International Spaceport. The ship was twice the size of any human spacecraft, its dark metal hull scarred with burn marks and gaping holes. Sarah had been working with alien technology for 5 years, ever since humanity joined the Galactic Coalition. She knew the rules well. Humans were allowed to trade, to learn basic sciences, to travel between stars on approved routes. But military technology was forbidden. The Coalition made that very clear from the start. "They're requesting emergency repairs," her assistant Tom said, reading the transmission. "But they don't want our help. They're bringing their own repair crews down from orbit." Sarah raised an eyebrow. "Their ship is falling apart, and they won't let us touch it?" "Standard procedure," Tom replied. "We're considered too young, too aggressive. They think we'll steal their weapons if we get close." The Valkyrie were tall, reptilian beings with bronze-colored scales and eyes that glowed faintly yellow. They moved with military precision as they surrounded their damaged ship. Their commander, a massive warrior named Theron, stood at the entrance ramp with his arms crossed. Sarah walked across the landing field toward him. The evening sun was setting behind the mountains, casting long shadows across the concrete. "Commander Theron," she said politely, "welcome to Earth. We have repair facilities ready if you need them." Theron looked down at her. He was nearly 7 feet tall. "That won't be necessary, Dr. Chen. My crew will handle all repairs. I must ask that your people keep their distance." "Of course," Sarah said. "But our sensors detected some unusual energy signatures when you came in. If you have any containment leaks, we should—" "We have no leaks," Theron interrupted. "Your sensors are mistaken. Please return to your facility." Sarah nodded slowly. She had dealt with alien pride before. "Very well. We'll be standing by if you change your mind." She walked back to the observation building. But her mind was racing. The sensors weren't mistaken. She had seen the readings herself. The Valkyrie ship was leaking exotic particles, the kind that only came from advanced weapon systems. Inside the control room, her team was already working. Tom pulled up the sensor data on the main screen. "Look at this," he said, pointing to streams of colorful data. "These particle signatures match nothing in our database. Whatever they have on that ship, it's something we've never seen before." Sarah studied the readings carefully. "Can we map it?" "Already doing it," said Maria, their senior technician. "The leak started when they entered our atmosphere. The heat must have damaged their containment fields. We're getting a complete picture of every major system on that ship." Sarah felt her heart beat faster. This was a unique opportunity. The Valkyrie had the most advanced military in the Coalition. Their technology was centuries ahead of Earth's. And now, by accident, they were giving humanity a complete scan of their most secret weapons. "Get everyone on this?" Sarah said quietly. "And I mean everyone. Call in every specialist we have. I want physicists, engineers, programmers, even artists and philosophers. Get them all here now." Tom looked surprised. "Artists? Why artists?" "Because we need people who think differently," Sarah explained. "The Valkyrie see these things as weapons. We need to see them as something else entirely." Outside, the Valkyrie crew worked through the night. They moved large containers from their ship, sealing them with security locks. Sarah watched through the windows as they carefully hid their most advanced technology. They thought they were being clever, protecting their secrets from the primitive humans. They didn't know that human sensors had already recorded everything. By midnight, Sarah's facility was filled with people. Scientists from every continent had arrived. The main laboratory buzzed with excited conversation as teams gathered around display screens showing the alien technology. Dr. James Park, a quantum physicist from Korea, was the first to speak up. "This weapon system here, it uses quantum disruption to tear apart matter at the molecular level. Incredibly destructive. Do thous. But look at the precision, said Dr. Amara Okonkwo, a surgeon from Nigeria. If we adjusted the frequency, this could target cancer cells without harming healthy tissue. It's like a perfect scalpel. Sarah smiled. This was exactly what she hoped for. Keep going. What else do we see? A young programmer named Luis pointed at another system. This is their cascade drive. It's meant to destabilize enemy ships by overloading their power systems. But the underlying code, it's similar to distributed network protocols. We could use this for quantum computing or instant communication across space. The armor interface is fascinating too, added Dr. Yuki Tanaka, a robotics specialist. It connects directly to the warrior's nervous system, but instead of weapons, we could use this for prosthetics. Imagine giving someone a new arm that responds faster than their original. As the night progressed, Sarah watched her team transform weapons into tools. They weren't trying to build better guns or bombs. They were asking completely different questions. How can this heal? How can this build? How can this connect people instead of destroying them? By 3 a.m, they had preliminary designs for a dozen different applications. None of them were weapons. Sarah looked out the window at the Valkyrie ship. Commander Theron and his crew would finish their repairs by dawn. They would leave Earth confident that they had protected their secrets. They had no idea that humanity had already taken their war technology and transformed it into something entirely new. She turned back to her team. We have 4 more hours. Let's build working prototypes. I want to show them what we've done before they leave. The team worked with intense focus. This wasn't about stealing or copying. This was about seeing possibilities that the Valkyrie never imagined. They had spent centuries perfecting ways to destroy. Humanity had spent millennia learning to survive, to adapt, to turn every challenge into an opportunity. As the first light of dawn touched the horizon, Sarah held a small device in her hand. It looked nothing like a weapon. It looked like hope. The main laboratory had become a hive of organized chaos. Scientists crowded around workstations while holographic displays floated in the air showing alien schematics. Coffee machines ran constantly. Nobody was sleeping tonight. Sarah walked between the teams, watching humanity do what it did best, collaborate in beautiful, messy chaos. In the corner, Dr. Amara Okonkwo was working with a materials engineer and a musician. It seemed like an odd combination, but Sarah understood. The Valkyrie quantum disruptor worked by generating specific frequencies that tore apart molecular bonds. The musician understood frequencies and resonance better than most physicists. "Play it again," Amara said. The musician, a woman named Sarah Chen, hummed a complex tone. The equipment registered the frequency and displayed it as a wave pattern. "There," the materials engineer said excitedly. "That frequency passes through healthy cells, but resonates with abnormal ones. If we tune the disruptor to that range, it becomes a medical scanner that can find tumors we'd normally miss." Amara nodded, her fingers flying over the controls. "And if we increase the intensity just slightly, it could destroy those cancer cells without surgery, without radiation, without any of the side effects of current treatments." Sarah moved to the next station where Dr. James Park was arguing with 3 programmers about the cascade drive. "You're thinking about it wrong," one programmer insisted. "The Valkyrie use it to cascade failures through enemy systems. But what if we reverse it? What if we cascade success instead of failure? After failure, after failure." James frowned. "What do you mean?" "Look." The programmer pulled up a simulation. "The drive creates a network effect. It spreads from one target to the next. But we could use that same principle for quantum computing. Each processor becomes a node. Information cascades through the network instantly. We'd have computing power that makes our current supercomputers look like calculators." Another programmer jumped in. "And for communication, we could send messages across light years in real time. No more waiting months for responses from distant colonies." James's eyes widened. "You're right. We've been so focused on the destructive application that we missed the fundamental principle. It's not about destruction, it's about connection. Across the room, Dr. Yuki Tanaka had assembled something that looked like a mechanical arm. She was working with a veteran named Marcus, who had lost his right arm in an industrial accident 3 years ago. The Valkyrie interface reads neural signals and translates them into armor commands, Yuki explained. But we don't need armor. We need this. She carefully attached the mechanical arm to Marcus's shoulder. The interface glowed softly as it connected with his nervous system. Try to move your fingers, Yuki said. Marcus concentrated. The mechanical fingers moved, smooth and natural. His face broke into a wide smile. Now try to pick up that cup. Yuki pointed to a coffee cup on the table. Marcus reached out. The mechanical hand moved with perfect precision, gripping the cup gently without crushing it. He lifted it to his lips and took a sip. I can feel it, Marcus said, his voice full of wonder. I can feel the warmth of the cup. I can feel the texture. It's like my arm never left. Several people stopped working to watch. Some had tears in their eyes. Sarah felt a surge of pride. This was humanity's gift. The Valkyrie had created an interface for war. Humans had turned it into a way to heal, to restore what was lost. Near the center of the lab, a climate scientist named Dr. Rivera was working with the data from the ship's atmospheric processors. The Valkyrie used them to create toxic clouds on enemy worlds. Rivera saw something else. These processors can manipulate atmospheric composition at a massive scale, Rivera said to her team. What if we used them on Earth? We could pull carbon dioxide directly from the atmosphere. We could reverse climate change. Or terraform Mars, someone suggested. Or restore the ozone layer completely, another added. The ideas kept flowing. A structural engineer realized the ship's hull material could revolutionize earthquake-resistant buildings. A water treatment specialist saw applications for the energy shields in purifying contaminated water. A teacher thought the neural interface could help students with learning disabilities. Every hour brought new discoveries, new possibilities. The Valkyrie had spent centuries perfecting these technologies for one purpose: war. Humanity had spent one night finding a dozen peaceful purposes for each system. Sarah checked the time. It was 4 a.m. The Valkyrie would finish their repairs soon. She needed working prototypes, not just theories. Listen up, everyone, she called out. The laboratory gradually fell quiet. We have 2 hours. I need functional demonstrations. Pick your best application and make it work. We're going to show Commander Theron what we've done. Are you sure that's wise? Tom asked quietly. The Coalition has strict rules about this. We didn't hack their systems, Sarah replied. We didn't steal anything. We observed what their damaged ship was broadcasting and we learned. That's what humans do. We learn. We adapt. We transform. The teams went into overdrive. Failures were quickly abandoned. Successful prototypes were refined and improved. By 6 a.m, they had results. Dr. Amara's quantum scalpel could identify and remove cancer cells with perfect precision. Dr. James's quantum communication device had successfully sent a message to the Mars colony instantly. A transmission that should have taken 20 minutes arrived in seconds. Yuki's prosthetic arm was so responsive that Marcus kept forgetting it wasn't his original arm. Dr. Rivera's atmospheric processor had pulled carbon from the air and converted it into a solid block of graphene. Sarah looked at the collection of devices on the demonstration table. None of them looked like weapons. They looked like hope, like healing, like solutions to problems humanity had struggled with for generations. Outside, the sun was rising. The Valkyrie crew was finishing their work. Sarah saw Commander Theron walking around his ship, checking the repairs one final time. It's time, she said to her team. Let's show them what humanity can do. They gathered their prototypes and headed toward the landing field. The morning air was cool and fresh. Birds were singing in the trees around the spaceport. It seemed like an ordinary morning, but Sarah knew it wasn't. Everything was about to change. Commander Theron saw them approaching, and his expression hardened. His yellow eyes narrowed with suspicion. "Dr. Chen," he said coldly, "my ship is repaired. We will be leaving shortly." "I understand," Sarah replied. "But first, there's something I need to show you. Something you need to see before you leave." Theron crossed his arms. "If this is some attempt to delay our departure—" "It's not," Sarah interrupted. "It's about your technology. The technology you were so careful to hide." Theron's hand moved toward his weapon. "If you've attempted to hack our systems—" "We didn't hack anything," Sarah said calmly. "We just watched. And learned. And created something new." Commander Theron's scales rippled with anger. His yellow eyes glowed brighter as he stared down at Sarah. Behind him, 6 Valkyrie warriors moved closer, their hands on their weapons. "You dare to spy on Coalition military technology?" Theron's voice was a low growl. "This is a violation of every treaty Earth signed. Your species will be expelled from the Coalition for this. Thanks for watching. This is question. We can see." "This," he said. "We concede." Sarah didn't back away. She kept her voice calm and steady. "We didn't spy, Commander. Your damaged ship was leaking exotic particles into our atmosphere. Our environmental sensors picked them up automatically. We're required by law to monitor everything that enters our air and water. We were just doing our job." Theron's mouth opened, then closed. He hadn't considered that. The damage to his ship had been worse than he thought. "Even so," he said after a moment, "observing military technology without permission is forbidden." "Then file your complaint with the Coalition," Sarah replied. "But first, look at what we did with what we observed. I think you'll find it interesting." She gestured to her team. They had set up a demonstration area on the landing field. Tom stepped forward first, holding a device that looked nothing like a weapon. It was small, sleek, and glowed with a soft blue light. "This is based on your quantum disruptor," Tom said. "We studied the frequency patterns your weapon uses to break molecular bonds." Theron's anger flared again. "You have no right." "We changed the frequency," Tom continued, ignoring the interruption. "Watch." He activated the device and pointed it at a prepared sample on the table, a piece of synthetic tissue with cancer cells embedded in it. The device hummed softly. On the monitor above, everyone could see the cancer cells breaking apart, while the healthy tissue remained completely untouched. "Your weapon destroys everything," Tom explained. "Ours heals. We've created a cancer treatment that can target and eliminate malignant cells without surgery, without radiation, without harming the patient." Theron stared at the monitor. His expression shifted from anger to confusion. "You turned a weapon into a medical tool?" "That's just the beginning," Sarah said. "Doctor." James stepped forward with another device. "Your Cascade drive is designed to spread system failures through enemy fleets. We reversed the principle. Instead of cascading failure, we cascade success." He activated his device. A holographic display appeared, showing a complex network of glowing nodes. "This is a quantum communication network," James explained. "Each node connects to every other node instantly. We sent a message to our Mars colony using this. The transmission was instantaneous. No delay, no signal degradation. Your weapon principle has given us faster-than-light communication." "Impossible," one of the Valkyrie warriors said. "That technology took us 3 centuries to develop." "You developed it for destruction," James replied. "We developed it for connection. Different goals, different results." Yuki came forward next, accompanied by Marcus. The veteran raised his mechanical arm and waved at the Valkyrie. "Your biomechanical interface is impressive," Yuki said. "The way it reads neural signals and translates them into armor responses, brilliant engineering. We adapted it for prosthetics." Marcus picked up a small rock from the ground. He tossed it gently from his mechanical hand to his other hand. Then, back again. I lost my arm 3 years ago, Marcus said. I've tried every prosthetic available. They were all just tools, heavy, slow, numb. This one is different. I can feel with it. I can control it as naturally as breathing. It's not just a replacement. It's better than my original arm, in some ways. Theron watched in silence. His warriors had gathered closer, their weapons forgotten. They were staring at the mechanical arm with undisguised fascination. There's more, Sarah said. She signaled to Dr. Rivera. The climate scientist activated a larger device, a scaled-down version of the atmospheric processor. It hummed to life, and a display showed carbon dioxide levels in the immediate area, dropping steadily. Your ship uses atmospheric manipulation to create toxic environments on enemy planets, Rivera explained. We use the same principle to clean our own atmosphere. This device pulls carbon dioxide directly from the air and converts it into useful materials. If we deploy these globally, we could reverse climate change within a decade. Theron was no longer standing at attention. He moved closer to examine each device. His warriors followed, their military discipline forgotten in their curiosity. I don't understand, Theron said finally. Why would you do this? You could have built weapons. Better weapons than ours, perhaps. You could have made yourselves powerful. Sarah smiled. Commander, we've been at war with each other for most of our history. We know weapons. We know destruction. We're very good at it. But we learned something important through all that conflict. What? Theron asked. Weapons only solve short-term problems, Sarah said. They don't build. They don't heal. They don't create lasting peace. Every weapon we've ever made eventually becomes obsolete or turns against us. But tools that heal, that build, that connect, those last. Those make life better. She picked up the quantum scalpel. You see this as a ruined weapon. We see it as hope for millions of cancer patients. You see failure. We see transformation. One of the Valkyrie warriors spoke up. We've been fighting the Devourers for 20 years. We've lost 12 worlds. All our technology, all our weapons. Nothing stops them. They adapt, they overwhelm. Maybe you're fighting them wrong, Tom suggested. Maybe you're playing the game they're best at. Theron turned to look at him. What do you mean? The Devourers are perfect warriors, Tom said. They're built for total war, so you fight them with bigger weapons, stronger shields, more aggressive tactics. But you're competing with them at their own game. What if you changed the game entirely? Theron was quiet for a long moment. The sun had fully risen now, and the morning light reflected off his bronze scales. He looked at each device again, his expression thoughtful. You've transformed instruments of war into tools of peace in a single night, he said slowly. My people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We've forgotten how to think any other way. He turned to Sarah. I should report this to the coalition. You've violated multiple security protocols. You could do that, Sarah agreed. But then you'd have to explain how a species you consider primitive managed to understand and transform your most advanced technology overnight. You'd have to admit that maybe humanity has something to offer beyond being monitored and restricted. Theron's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. You're clever, Dr. Chen. Very clever. We're human, Sarah replied. We adapt. It's what we do best. Theron looked up at his ship, then back at the devices on the demonstration table. I need to think about this. Perhaps there's another way forward. Take your time, Commander, Sarah said. But think fast. Because the galaxy has problems that weapons can't solve. And humanity might just have the solutions you need. 3 weeks passed before the coalition responded. Sarah expected an emergency meeting. She expected accusations and threats. What she didn't expect was the sheer scale of the response. The Coalition Council chamber was massive, a sphere of polished stone floating in space above the capital world. Representatives from 43 species sat in their designated sections, and all of them were talking at once. Sarah stood in the center of the chamber with her small human delegation. Above them, holographic displays showed the devices humanity had created. Tom, James, Yuki, and 5 other scientists stood with her, looking small and vulnerable, surrounded by aliens who were mostly angry. "This is unprecedented," shouted Ambassador Krell, a insectoid representative with 4 arms. "Earth has violated every security protocol we established. They must be sanctioned immediately." "They turned weapons into medical tools," countered Ambassador Mora, a gentle aquatic being whose species had suffered greatly in the Devourer Wars. "Is that truly a crime?" "The method is the crime," Krell insisted. "They observed classified military technology without permission. Their sensors detected a contamination leak," Mora argued. "They were protecting their planet's environment. How is that criminal?" The chamber erupted in argument again. Sarah noticed that the representatives were split roughly in half. The traditional military powers, like the Valkyrie and Krell's species, were furious. But the species who had lost worlds to the Devourers were curious, even hopeful. Commander Theron stood in the Valkyrie section. He had been silent so far, but now he rose to speak. The chamber gradually quieted. "I was there," Theron said, his voice carrying through the chamber. "I saw what the humans did. Yes, they observed our technology, but they didn't copy it. They didn't build weapons. They transformed it into something completely different." "That's not the point," Krell began. "It is exactly the point," Theron interrupted. "We've been fighting the Devourers for 2 decades. We've lost worlds, billions of lives. Our weapons get stronger, and they adapt. They get stronger, and we build better weapons. It's an endless cycle that we're losing." He gestured toward Sarah. "These humans showed me something in one night that my people forgot over 10,000 years. They showed me that there are other ways to think, other ways to solve problems." "Pretty words," Krell said. "But words won't stop the Devourers." "No," agreed another voice. Everyone turned to see Ambassador Jara of the remnant world standing. Her species had been nearly destroyed by the Devourers. Only a few million of her people remained. Refugees scattered across Coalition space. "Words won't stop them," Zara continued. "Neither will more weapons. We've tried. Every species in this chamber has tried. The Devourers are winning because we keep fighting their kind of war." She turned to Sarah. "I want to hear what Earth proposes. What good are your medical tools and communication devices against an enemy that wants to consume everything?" Sarah took a breath. This was the moment that mattered. "May I show you something?" "Exa, Exa, Exa," Zara nodded. Sarah activated her portable display. A simulation appeared in the center of the chamber, showing a typical Devourer attack. "This is how battles usually go," Sarah explained. "The Devourers attack with overwhelming force. You respond with your strongest weapons. The battle escalates. Even when you win, entire planets are left devastated. Cities destroyed, ecosystems ruined, millions dead." The simulation played out, showing the brutal cycle of destruction. Many representatives looked away. They had lived through these battles. "Now watch this," Sarah said. The simulation changed, showing a different scenario. Same Devourer attack. But the defense uses modified versions of the technology we developed. First, adaptive shields based on harmonic resonance, rather than brute force. The shields don't try to overpower the attacks, they redirect them, absorb them, turn the energy back against itself. In the simulation, the Devourer weapons struck the shields and dispersed harmlessly. Second, quantum communication networks. Every ship, every station, every defender becomes a node in a distributed network. There's no central command to disrupt, no single point of failure. If you destroy one ship, the network adapts instantly. Third, precision disabling rather than destruction. We don't try to annihilate the Devourer ships. We disable their weapons, their engines, their ability to fight. We deny them resources instead of creating more wreckage for them to consume. The simulation showed Devourer ships disabled but intact, drifting helplessly. But they'll repair and come back. Krell objected. Let them, Sarah replied. The battle cost them ships, energy, and time, but gave them nothing in return. No destroyed worlds to harvest. No resources to consume. From their perspective, it's a loss, even if they survive. The chamber was quiet. Every representative was watching the simulation with intense focus. The Devourers are perfect warriors, Sarah continued. They've evolved for total war. You can't beat them at their own game. But you can change the game. Make war unprofitable for them. Make every battle cost more than it gains. Eventually, they'll look for easier prey. Ambassador Jara leaned forward. You're saying we should fight to frustrate rather than destroy? I'm saying you should fight to survive and protect, not to annihilate, Sarah corrected. Destruction is their game. Survival is ours. Humanity has almost destroyed itself a dozen times. We're still here because we learned to adapt, to find new solutions, to transform our worst tools into our best hope. This is theoretical, Krell said. Simulations aren't reality. Then test it, Tom spoke up. The Devourers are attacking the Kelmar outpost next week. We know because they follow predictable patterns. Let us help defend it. If we fail, you can expel Earth from the coalition. But if we succeed, right. If you succeed, we consider your approach. Jara finished. She looked around the chamber. I vote for giving Earth this chance. My people have nothing left to lose. Other voices joined hers. Representatives from species who had lost worlds, who had seen their populations devastated, who were desperate for any alternative to the grinding war of attrition. The vote was close. 23 in favor, 17 against, 3 abstaining. Just barely enough. Earth will assist in the defense of Kelmar outpost, the council leader announced. But understand, any failure will result in immediate expulsion and severe sanctions. Sarah nodded. We understand. As the delegation left the chamber, Tom walked beside her. You realize, we've never actually tested this in real combat, right? Everything we showed them was simulation. I know, Sarah said quietly. And if it doesn't work, humanity's reputation in the galaxy is finished. I know that too. So why did you push so hard for this? Sarah stopped and looked back at the council chamber. Through the transparent walls, she could see the representatives still arguing, still debating. Because Theron was right, she said. The current approach isn't working. The Devourers are winning. If we don't try something different, more worlds will fall. More people will die. Yes, it's a risk. But doing nothing is a bigger risk. She started walking again, her team following. Besides, we have something the Devourers don't. What's that? James asked. 10,000 years of human history. We've fought each other with every weapon imaginable. We've nearly destroyed ourselves multiple times. We know war inside and out, but more importantly, we know how to survive war. We know how to rebuild, how to adapt, how to find hope in the darkest times. Sarah smiled slightly. The Devourers are perfect warriors, but we're perfect survivors. Let's see which one matters more. The Kelmar outpost hung in space like a small moon, its surface covered with defensive installations and living quarters for 30,000 beings. Sarah stood on the command deck of the human ship, watching the sensor displays. Around the outpost, a mixed fleet of coalition and human vessels waited in formation. Contact in 10 minutes. Tom reported from the sensor station. Devourer fleet composition matches our predictions. 30 warships, Standard assault configuration. Sarah nodded. Her stomach was tight with nervousness, but she kept her voice calm. All ships, begin network synchronization. Across the fleet, the quantum communication system activated. Human technology merged with coalition systems, creating something new. Every ship became a node in a distributed network. No commanders, no hierarchy, just instant coordination and adaptation. Commander Theron's voice came through the communication system. He had volunteered to lead the Valkyrie contingent in the defense. Network connection confirmed. This feels strange, Dr. Chen. I'm used to giving orders, not being part of a collective. It's not a collective, Commander, Sarah replied. Think of it like a jazz band. Everyone plays their own instrument. But they're all listening to each other, adapting in real time. No sheet music, no conductor, just collaboration. Jazz? Theron sounded confused. I'll explain later. If we survive this, 5 minutes to contact, Tom said. Sarah activated the fleet-wide channel. All ships. Remember, we're not trying to destroy them. We disable. We frustrate. We make this unprofitable. Every devourer ship that leaves here intact is a ship that tells the others this target isn't worth the effort. The devourer fleet emerged from faster-than-light travel exactly on schedule. 30 massive warships, each one designed for maximum destruction. They had no names, no individual identities. They were just weapons, perfect and efficient. The devourers attacked immediately. No communication, no warning. That was their way. Massive energy weapons lanced out toward the outpost. Harmonic shields active, called out multiple voices across the network. The shields didn't try to block the attacks with brute force. Instead, they resonated at specific frequencies, absorbing the energy and redirecting it. The devourer weapons struck the shields and dispersed like water hitting a smooth stone. On the command deck, Sarah watched the data streaming through the network. The shields were holding, but they were consuming enormous energy. Rotate shield generators. Don't let any single system overheat. The fleet responded as one. Ships moved in coordinated patterns, each one supporting the others. When one shield weakened, another moved to cover it. The network tracked every change, every threat, and adapted instantly. The devourers changed tactics. They focused their fire on single targets, trying to overwhelm them. It was a strategy that had worked for them countless times before, but the network saw it coming. The targeted ships scattered, while others moved in to fill the gaps. The formation flowed like water, never breaking, always adapting. They're getting frustrated, James observed, watching the devourer patterns. Their standard tactics aren't working. Good, Sarah said. Now let's show them what else we can do. All ships, target their weapon systems only. Quantum disruptors set to disable frequency. The fleet opened fire. But instead of trying to destroy the devourer ships, the modified quantum weapons targeted specific systems. Weapons overheated and shut down. Shield generators failed. Engine cores went into emergency shutdown. One by one, devourer ships went dark, drifting helplessly but intact. This is working, Theron said, his voice filled with amazement. It's actually working, but Sarah saw something on the sensors that worried her. The remaining active devourer ships were pulling back, regrouping. They began targeting the disabled ships, destroying them to prevent the coalition from studying them. They're cutting their losses, Tom said. They're going to retreat. Not yet, Sarah replied. They'll make one more push. They have to. Their whole strategy depends on overwhelming force. If they retreat without even trying their maximum effort, it changes everything. She was right. The devourer ships charged forward in a desperate assault, throwing everything they had at the outpost. Energy weapons, kinetic projectiles, even some kind of viral code trying to infect the network. The fleet strained under the assault. 2 coalition ships took heavy damage. The outpost's outer shields began to fail in sections. "Hold together," Sarah called out. "Just a little longer," the network responded. Damaged ships fell back while fresh ones moved forward. The quantum communication system rerouted around disrupted nodes. Engineers across the fleet worked together, sharing solutions, adapting on the fly. And then, suddenly, it was over. The Devourer ships stopped firing. For a long moment, they just hung in space, their weapons powered down. "What are they doing?" Tom asked. Sarah watched the sensor readings carefully. "They're calculating. Cost versus benefit. They've lost 20 ships. They've failed to damage the outpost significantly. They've gained nothing." The Devourer fleet began to retreat, moving away from the outpost in formation. But before they jumped to faster-than-light speed, something unexpected happened. One of the Devourer ships transmitted a signal. Not a message, the Devourers didn't communicate, but a pure data burst. A mathematical sequence. "Did you see that?" James asked. "I saw it," Sarah replied. "They just shared information about our tactics with their entire fleet. They're warning the others." "Is that bad?" Tom asked. Sarah smiled. "No. That's perfect. That means they recognize us as a real threat. They're adapting their strategy, which means we've changed the equation. This isn't easy prey anymore. It's a hard target." The Devourers vanished into faster-than-light travel. The battle was over. For a moment, the fleet was silent. Then, cheers erupted across every ship. The outpost was safe. Not a single coalition ship had been destroyed. Less than 100 casualties compared to the thousands that usually died in Devourer attacks. Commander Theron's image appeared on Sarah's screen. The Velkari warrior was grinning, showing all his teeth. "Dr. Chen, that was the most unusual battle I've ever fought. And the most successful." "It wasn't a battle, Commander," Sarah replied. "It was a lesson. We taught the Devourers that some targets aren't worth the cost." "Will they come back?" Theron asked. "Eventually, maybe. But they'll think twice. And they'll tell others. Each time we do this, we make it less profitable for them to attack. Eventually, they'll find easier prey elsewhere." Over the next few days, reports flooded in from across coalition space. The Devourers had backed away from 3 planned attacks. They were being more cautious, more selective. For the first time in 20 years, they were on the defensive. The Coalition Council met again, and this time the mood was very different. Ambassador Krell was notably quiet. Ambassador Zhara stood and addressed the chamber. "Earth has proven its worth," she said. "They've shown us a new way forward. I propose that we fully integrate human strategic thinking into our defense planning, and I propose we remove the restrictions on human access to technology." The vote was unanimous. Sarah stood in her laboratory back on Earth, looking at the wall where they'd mounted the first prototypes. The quantum scalpel, the prosthetic interface, the atmospheric processor, tools built from weapons, hope built from destruction. Commander Theron entered the lab. He had requested to visit Earth again, this time as a student rather than a warrior. "My people want to learn from you," Theron said. "We've been warriors for so long that we forgot there were other ways to solve problems. We forgot how to build instead of destroy." "You didn't forget," Sarah replied. "You just focused on one type of problem for too long. Warriors are needed sometimes. But so are healers, builders, teachers, and dreamers." Theron looked at the devices on the wall. "In one night, you transformed our weapons into tools. In one battle, you transformed our entire strategy. What else can humanity teach us?" Sarah smiled. "That's the beautiful thing, Commander. We're still learning too. Every problem has multiple solutions. Every challenge is an opportunity. Every ending is a beginning." She picked up the quantum scalpel. "We didn't just transform your technology. We transformed the way the galaxy thinks about conflict. That's humanity's real gift. We never accept that there's only one way to do something. We always ask, what else could this become? Theron nodded slowly. My people have a saying, the strongest warrior wins the battle. But you've taught us something new. He paused, thinking. The wisest survivor wins the war. Not quite, Sarah corrected gently. The best solution is when nobody has to win, because everybody finds a better way forward. She walked to the window and looked up at the stars. Out there, the galaxy was changing. Species were sharing ideas, collaborating, transforming old weapons into new tools. The devourers were still a threat, but they were no longer inevitable. We came to the stars as the youngest species, Sarah said. Everyone thought we were too aggressive, too dangerous, too unpredictable. They were right. We are all those things, but we're also adaptable, creative, and hopeful. We've spent our entire history learning from our mistakes, transforming our worst impulses into our greatest strengths. Tom entered the lab with a tablet. Sarah, you need to see this. 6 more species have requested human consultation on adapting their military tech for civilian use. And 3 species want to establish permanent exchange programs with Earth universities. Sarah laughed. Looks like we're going to be busy. This is just the beginning, Theron said. You've opened doors that have been closed for millennia. The galaxy will never be the same. Sarah turned back to her team. Then let's make sure we guide it well. We've shown them what we can do with 1 night and 1 set of stolen war tech. Imagine what we can do with time, cooperation, and genuine partnership. She looked at the quantum scalpel in her hand one more time, then set it down gently. The Velkari built this to destroy, she said. We transformed it to heal. That's not just about technology. That's about perspective, about asking different questions, about refusing to accept that destruction is the only answer. She smiled at her team, at Theron, at everyone who had worked through that one extraordinary night. They hid their war tech, thinking we couldn't be trusted with it. By morning, we'd transformed it completely. And in doing so, we transformed the galaxy's future. Not bad for one night's work. Outside, the sun set over Earth. But across the galaxy, a new dawn was beginning.